This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 77.
You know, I was on the Kool-Aid camp. I was believing the pump, and I just thought it would come around.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host. He's allergic to bees. Clay Trader.
Yes, I still remember back to kindergarten when I was just sitting in my class and felt like a pinprick my ear. And I thought, what was that? And it was a bee. So, all right, whatever. Not the most pleasant experience. And then I remember just like my ear swelling up and the whole side of my face, and I looked like a freak of nature, and it was not good. And then later on, I'd get stung. And the other time I remember it is when I did roofing in high school or college. I was carrying a piece of plywood, and a bee landed on it, and I remember I looked at the bee, and I'm like, oh, great, because you couldn't drop the plywood given to where I had it, and that thing just stung me. And then about an hour later, my hand was like the size of a glove. So yeah, I am like partially allergic. I don't have to like use an EpiPen.
You got it.
EpiPen. But yeah, I definitely am a little allergic to bees, so they are not my favorite. And I just swell up. Now maybe if I got stung in the throat, I might have to maybe go to like the hospital for that. But unless it's like a throat shot, I think I'm okay. So far so good. So, but yeah, I am allergic to bees, and I don't know. I guess. Now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey once said. Ches, are you allergic to anything?
I am actually allergic to bees, but now I'll remember this so that if there's ever an assassination attempt on your life, we'll just get a box of bees and unleash them in a car or something with you. But yeah, I'm allergic to bees. I'm allergic to wasps and
clams, right? Or shellfish.
And shellfish, yeah. So if you want to try to kill me or assassinate me, just blend up some shrimp and hide it in a smoothie or something. And that'll be the last time you see me on the podcast. But
that would hit your stop loss.
That would hit my stop loss relatively quickly too. But yeah, the only unpleasant experience I had was when I was younger. I had two wasps fly in under like my shirt, like into the bottom of my shirt and up near my shoulder, and sting me twice. And my mom had an appointment at the doctor's office, which was convenient for that time because my whole body was swollen up. So she gave me like a box of Benadryl. But yeah, I'm pretty allergic to bees and wasps to the point where I actually do have an EpiPen, except that's from probably over 15 years ago now. So I've just been fortunate to not be stung. And I'm still alive. So that's a good thing too.
Have you ever seen the movie The Rock?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. So when Nicolas Cage, like that gas is killing him and he pulls out the needle and he just has to jam. Is that like how an EpiPen works? Or are you like laying on the ground and you got to just grab it and just shove it into your heart?
Well, not your heart, but yeah, your leg. But yeah, the needle is not a small needle by any means, and I've actually heard it's not very fun at all to stab yourself in like the meaty part of your thigh. But yeah, definitely not in the heart, but similar concept, just different place.
So not quite as Hollywood as
not quite as Hollywood, right?
As The Rock, as my Sean Connery expressed. Anyway, oh wow, we're getting way off topic. So today we are talking with somebody from the great state of Tennessee. Donald is his name. He goes by Speedster in the chat room. And as we learn a little bit later on, he's actually interacted with me many times before on the message boards, but just under a totally different name. So he changed his name, and it was kind of like a coming home party. And he is, actually, I don't want to ruin that part, but he's kind of a celebrity in a sense. So I'll just leave it at that. But Donald shares a lot of good stuff with us. He's been around a while. He's got quite a few good experiences that are definitely present learning opportunities and learning examples. It's always good to learn from other people's mistakes, as mean as that is, but it's a lot more cost effective. And he definitely presents us with some cost effective learning examples. So let's hop right in with Donald. Well, Donald, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's now you're down in Tennessee, right?
Correct.
Now, have you ever met up? We have another member, Chris from Nashville is what we call him. He's not been a guest yet, but he came to the Pittsburgh meet and greet. But he said that you and him have been talking, and we're going to try to meet up. So have you guys met up yet?
No, it never has worked out. Either I've gotten too busy or he's been off too busy and traveling, and we just haven't got back together. So I'm hoping before the meetup in Nashville we can get together.
Yeah, no, that's what he was saying in Pittsburgh was he travels a lot. You're pretty busy, so it's just hard to get kind of all the stars to align. So I was curious about that. And Chris from Nashville, we're waiting. We understand you're going through your process, but he'll eventually be a guest on the podcast. And with that, it sounds like you are planning to come to the Nashville meet and greet in October.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent. So this will be our, I guess, meeting over Skype, but then we'll actually get to meet and hang out in real life. So perfect. And I haven't brought this up. You go in the chat room, Speedster 47, and you have a nice, cool little picture of a motorcycle. So I'm assuming you're like pretty big into motorcycles, or give us a quick synopsis of that.
Sure. Well, growing up, I used to race BMX bikes, so I kind of raced those for 6 years. Later in life, I got into motorcycle racing, did that for about 5 or 6 years. And then I also raced RC cars for about 5 years. So Speedster was kind of the term that I had, and it was also, I had a Sea-Doo Speedster boat, a little jet boat. That's kind of what started it. And then once I started getting on different forums for those kind of hobbies, that's just kind of what I used everywhere and carried it over to the IC.
That makes perfect sense. It's amazing how you get an alias and then it kind of just sticks with you. So as much as I'd love to still kind of pry into that part of your life, let's talk about actual trading and such. So what got you interested in the markets? What really kind of drew you enough to the point of, hey, you know what, I want to try to do this on my own. I want to actually put some money on the line. So where did this all start for you?
Well, I guess my first exposure was the econ class in high school, but I remember doing it, but I don't remember what I picked. I don't remember the outcomes, and it was just kind of some exposure, but I knew at the time I didn't really want to get into a finance type of a career, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. Went on out of high school, got an engineering degree, and basically got an IT job in 1995, and been in an IT career ever since. Probably about 2010-ish, I had a friend of my wife's son had gotten out of school, and he got a job at one of the local financial services places in town.
Here we go, the friend with the hot pick. I'm waiting for it.
But wait, he's an engineer. He'll see right through it, okay? Just like I did as an engineer. I saw right through those things too. So
it was kind of interesting. I mean, we wanted to give him a little business to kind of get him going, and my wife didn't have a good 401k with her company, so we had him set up her 401k, and I had a leftover 401k that had maybe $2,000 in it that, I wanted to do something with, but I wasn't sure what. So I let him manage it too. And, I mentioned, I kind of wanted to get into stocks as well, outside of doing the normal 401k investment. I didn't really want to manage that. I want to let them do it. But, he was like, well, me and his little clique at his office, they were doing some day trading and basically for beer money. So, that kind of was my first thing in the door. He came over one night and just kind of showed me. He basically pulled up an intraday chart off some site, kind of showed me real basics, buy low, sell high, basically. And, that was how he was making his beer money for the week. I kind of knew when he was showing me that he was just showing me the bare minimal basics. I could see in his eyes that it was just, there was so much more to it, but I knew he wasn't going to, go down that rabbit hole with me.
Now, did you decide to give him that $2,000 that you had to start messing around for beer money and take a share of that, or was this like something that was completely different? He was just showing you what he's doing for some side cash.
It was different. I let him just manage that $2,000. His company, I should say, manage that. And then I got some money from my dad passing away, and I paid off some bills, and I had about, I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000. And, after I paid some bills off, and that was what I was going to start my trading with. And so I think it was $5,000. And at the time, the company I worked for had just IPO'd, and I had just missed the internal employee program to purchase it. So I'm like, fine, I'm just buying my own shares. And so that was what was getting me into the market. I wanted just to get some shares of my company, sit on them, hopefully, take the rest of that money and turn it into beer money, and then potentially grow it. I had bigger intentions beyond beer money, but
that was kind of like a starting block for you. There was just start at beer money, and then it'll get to like Lamborghini money. Is that kind of yeah? So I want to just kind of circle back though, because it's true, and I don't think we've really ever had it, but the whole, so, your buddy came over and he explained it to you, and good on you. I mean, you understood that there was more to it, but if only the market was as easy as, you buy low and you sell high, here's some charts. And of course, when he's explaining all this, he has hindsight totally in his favor. So he's like, see, if you would have bought here, buy low, sell high, and then you could have bought right there, buy low, sell high. And at its core, the market is as easy as buy low, sell high. But like you said, Donald, there's a lot more into the simplistic nature of it. But that's in and of itself, I think, what gets a lot of people in trouble. And I want Ches, you to weigh in on this. But just so many people come in like, oh yeah, somebody showed me something. They don't realize that it's being explained to them with total hindsight. But just the basic oversimplification of buy low, sell high. I can figure this out. So let's create an E-Trade account and just go with it. But it's such a tricky way, because you try to tell these people like, no, it's really that simple. But I mean, you know what I'm saying here, Ches?
Right. It's not, you can't, there's a lot more at stake, and there's a lot more that's involved in it than just people think, where they say, when people go my favorite line is when people say, oh, well, it's, the stock is completely beaten down, I'm just going to buy it. And I'm just like, you do understand there's probably a reason it's beaten down, and that could continue to get beaten down until your account has literally zero in it. And we've heard that in other podcast guests. So, don't get me wrong, buying low and selling high, you can make money. At the same time, selling high and buying low, you can make money. But how you spot that opportunity is probably one of the hardest things to master. So it's much more difficult than that simplified buy low, sell high.
Yeah, that was actually that was episode 75, where we just were BSing around with Hooch, but we talked about the same concept. So I'm glad you brought that up, Donald, which is just oversimplification. In episode 75, we talked about the whole, somebody left a comment saying, well, what goes down must come up. Okay, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I realize that a lot of them will, bounce back up. But to Chez's point, there's why is it gone down? There's probably a reason for that. And you don't really need to know that reason, but just to sit there and simplify, well, what goes down must come up. You're way oversimplifying things, and it's not quite that straightforward. So nice little rabbit hole you let us down. But again, good on you. I'm glad to hear that you weren't just sitting there like starry-eyed, like, oh wow, it's just that easy. Buy low, sell high, and that's all I'm going to do. So here's the entire 401. You played it smart. Your instincts were there. And at least you realize that. So back to where we were, you decide, you know what, I want to just start at making beer money. Then we can, build from there. So did you go and like open up a third-party brokerage at that point, or where did, things kind of take you from that point?
I did. I just opened up a broker account, went and bought some.
Where'd you open one out out of curiosity?
Oh, it's your favorite broker.
Oh, don't say it.
E-Trade, baby.
Don't say it.
I looked at a couple of other, but at the time they were giving the free 50 trades or 60 trades, whatever it was.
And how does that work again? Like, don't you have to use those in a certain amount of time?
It's been so long, I don't remember.
I think you have like 6 months to use them.
Is that how that? Yeah, there is usually an expiration date on those, right? You have to use them within a certain amount of time. And Ches, just real quickly, because we cover this all the time, why is that just so cruel in and of itself to say, hey, here's free trades, but you only have a short amount of time to use them? What does that maybe lead to a little bit of?
It's like giving a 13-year-old the keys to a Lamborghini and telling him, "Oh, go have fun driving this around," and obviously nothing could go wrong. You have brand new traders who need to exhibit some restraint, being told that they have free trades and there's a time limit on it. So now they're feeling like they have to put trades on. And generally, the broker's getting money regardless, whether you're churning and burning from other fees and stuff like that. So they benefit from having people kind of cycle in and out, and it's an unfortunate thing. But yeah, it's very, very cruel of them.
It's so just bad. Like, you're brand new, you have no idea what you're doing because clearly you're paying $10 a trade, which tells us you're totally a newbie. But well said, Ches. It's just, oh man, there's so many pitfalls in this market when you're trying to get involved. But sorry to cut you off there, Donald, but it's actually, I'm not sorry because it's your fault for choosing E-Trade in the first place and you're getting free trades. So I'm just kidding. But anyways, so you get 50 to 60 free trades, you open up E-Trade, and did you try to educate yourself at all, or were you just like, let's go, let's get started. I want to, buy a 12-pack tonight.
No, I knew I needed some education, at least, a better understanding than buy low, sell high, So I had to start with the basics. So I bought Stock Market for Dummies, Emerging Markets for Dummies, and Day Trading for Dummies. And I pretty much read all those. I didn't finish Emerging Markets. It was kind of outdated. But, before I got into it, at the same time, I was fully exploring my platform, because me being an engineer, a computer guy, that's kind of how I feel stuff out. You get a new piece of software, you just open it up, start poking around, right? And that'll kind of give you at least some exposure. You may not understand everything, but at least you can, get a feel for some of this stuff and just start sponging it in. But I was also looking at, some other, at the time, I don't think there was just gobs of stuff on YouTube. There was, I think, but I didn't just go searching for like educational videos. I kind of would find something specific like candlesticks or an indicator, and I just go find out what I could about those, until my eyes glossed over with so much of it.
Well, so I do want to commend you before I let you go any further, is that at least you had you didn't just open your account and then immediately throw your entire account on the line, whether it was with your own company or whatever shares of anything. Just a lot of people will start trying to trade, popular names that could be complete mud stocks. And for the listeners out there, mud stocks are ones that are just very, very dense and don't move very much, but they're usually, dividend achievers. They're just generally safe bet names that a lot of people go to and gravitate towards. But obviously, like you said, you're looking at things, you're trying to learn. You're not just going to go in there blindly. But yeah, where did you think the books were not enough at that time? Were they just kind of pictures of, buy here, sell here, and this is what this does?
Well, it was real basic. And I think that.
How do you know it was basic though? Because I asked it because if you're a brand new trader, you're brand new and you really don't know much. So it's intriguing to me that somebody brand new still was like, this is just so basic. So what gave you the vibe that everything was so basic when you were actually new and, theoretically speaking, shouldn't really even know how to define basic?
I guess more accurately, it would cover like an indicator. Here's who made it. Here's the formula, whatever. Here's how it works. But none of it would really give you any strategies around it, anything like that. So it was just like very dry and, here's the formula, here's how it works. But I knew there was more to it than just understanding the math. I mean, you don't even really need to know the math, but you know what I mean? I just kind of knew that, okay, I've looked at all this indicators. I've looked at all this general technical stuff, and I looked at some fundamental stuff too, but I just thought it was basic because it didn't give me enough information about it, is I guess the best way to answer it.
So you're telling me that you can't go to the library, take out a couple books, and then, it's just going to teach you how to be a trader. And Ches, and really both of you, that's what always made me, and I totally went the book route too when I first got started, and you summarize it perfectly. It's just, you can't quite put your finger on it, but you're like, there's something not right here. Like, I feel like I'm missing something. So, your explanation is essentially how I felt, but that's what I always liked about book is, all right, well, we got to have a book to charge people. So we got to have like X amount of pages. So yeah, we'll go through the history of the indicator. then we'll throw the big massive formula on one page and then talk about how all the math works and how that affects the formula. And it's just like, okay, I didn't realize that this was some sort of like mathematical book where I need to learn formulas and all that sort of, it's like, give me something practical. And through my experience and, from your experience, and Ches, did you ever go the book route? Are you kind of in the same camp as Donald and I in terms of you just couldn't quite put your finger on it, or did you never even do books?
I did go the book route, but just like you said, it provided a bunch of history on the stuff. And what, it took me a long time to realize is that in the end, all of these are derived from either price and volume, and they're all just blended weight this and do that. They're all just a different look at what's already there. And it took me a long time to realize that. But yeah, I definitely went the book route. I think I did How to Day Trade for Dummies was one of them. I did kind of Investing for Dummies. I used to listen to them on my drive to work. So yeah, that was definitely my introduction. I think that's just a general way most people think if you want to learn something new, go on Amazon and find whatever's a good seller for that. But the thing about the markets is that the markets are dynamic. They change all the time, especially if you're doing a shorter term time frame. I don't think that can truly be conveyed in just a picture on a page. Yeah, no, that's well said. And we're not ripping, like, all three of us went the book route. Like Chess said, it's a very logical, it's a very, I guess logical. That it just makes sense to do that. Hey, I want to learn something. Hey, there's this site out there called Amazon. Let's go there and search, how to day trade, and then all those books are going to pop up. So, I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, pictures on a page, it's not quite enough. I wish I could say that all you had to spend was $15 on books and you got this whole game figured out, but a little more to it than that. So now you mentioned you also went to YouTube and were doing videos. So at this point, you were doing the straight up free education route. And I mean, were you feeling overwhelmed? Did you feel pretty confident in things? How were you taking all of this information in? I mean, was it just feel like, it's kind of coming at you from all different directions, or was it a very kind of relaxing process for you?
Well, I was pretty, the term my wife uses is cracking, or in crack mode. And that's just me by nature. Once I get into something, that's pretty much all I'm doing with my free time.
Like crack is in crack cocaine, you're like addicted to it? Okay.
Exactly.
Nice. This is not the first time crack cocaine is coming up as an analogy on this podcast. I think Doc first brought it up when he was a crackhead trader. But good, I like your wife. I've never met her, but the way she refers to that, I like. She's good with the analogies already. So she A+ in my book so far.
But I don't think. I mean, all that really did was reading those books and my research on what I did and checking out my platform. And I also checked out the brokers, educational videos just to get more exposure to this and that. But I never felt like I was truly prepared, because I just know there's so much to it. I don't know if you can ever be fully prepared, but I didn't, I kind of figured I'm going to learn by experience. And so I was pretty much, once I kind of got through those books, I was pretty much done reading at least those books and just wanted to get my toe in the water and see what was going on. And, and then I was also kind of dead set on self-education. I didn't think... I thought there was enough stuff out there I could learn. It may just take me longer. And that was really the wrong thinking at the time, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, well, welcome to that camp, because, again, that's a very logical thought. Hey, the internet's awesome. The internet has all sorts of information. There's this thing called YouTube. But, yeah, we'll get back to that. So now you thought you wanted to dip your toe in the water. So talk to us about your first trade, if you remember it. How big was your account, and then how big was that first trade? I'm curious. Or do you not remember those details? Because I realized this was several years ago.
Oh, I went back and looked at my tax records just to refresh my memory and to get some time frames down. But basically, I bought my company stock, about 100 shares.
And what percentage of your trading account was that? Was it just like a 5%, 10%? Was it like 50%?
It was probably 60-70%.
Okay, so here's my point and I did it. I think most people do it, is somehow the voice in their head says, well, you know what? We got to get started, so let's just dip our toe in the water. I'm sorry, but putting 60 to 70%, again, I'm not innocent. I did the same thing. But putting that amount of your account or into your first trade ever is not dipping your toe into the water. That is flat out let's go.
That's doing some Olympic diving into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah. So but I don't know if we've ever had that on the podcast, but I found that interesting because that's exactly the trick that my mind played on me too was, Clay, look, just dip your toe into the water. And then before I know it, I'm like, holy crap, my whole account is in, like, I don't have any, where did it all go? Well, I hope this stock goes up. And it's amazing how fast a toe dip turns into, you're up neck deep in the water. So, but anyways, let's talk about that first trade. You bought some of your company stock, pretty much the majority of your account. How'd that turn out for you?
Well, and to me, that wasn't I wouldn't call it my first trade because at the time that was a pure, I'm buying and holding this forever, right? Is what my thinking was. So I bought that, and then I had, I don't know, $1,800 left over, and that was my what I was gonna,
your bear money.
Exactly.
Okay.
So my first trade after the company purchase was a trade on AMD. So. And it was just a small amount of 50 shares. At the time, it had been trading around $9, and I think it dipped down to $8, and I bought in at like $8.74. And I went back and looked at the chart. Of course, I didn't know what I was looking at the time, but it was a potentially decent time based on the chart. But the next day, big red candle down. Next day, big red candle down. Next day, big red candle down. I'm like, screw this. I'm out.
Okay, so you held through all three of those big red candles.
I did.
Okay.
You did have an uncle point, though. It might have been a bad uncle point to have, but like we always do, I do want to commend you. I don't think 50 shares is stretched out your entire account value or whatever was left over for it. So that is good, but
I quickly grabbed the calculator, and so roughly $437 out of your $1,800. So I would say that's maybe dipping your foot in the water and maybe not quite the toe. So I'll give you credit there. That's from your $1,800 of what you intended for it to be, your trading. Yeah, 437. That's by no means to Chez's point. Like, you don't put in all $1,800 or anything. So you definitely kind of eased into the water, which was smart. But I'm curious. So you buy, it totally goes against you. Did you start to doubt yourself? Did you blame like something else? Did you take responsibility? Where was your mental, mind frame at, after what sounds like a pretty nasty first experience?
I guess I just thought I was, bought at the wrong time, or, oh, this was my first time. So, I missed something. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I didn't play it correctly, obviously, but that was kind of my thinking.
Okay. So you pretty much just kind of brushed it off as, hey, I'm new. This is supposed to happen. So let's just keep on chugging forward. Is that kind of a fair summation there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I kind of went down a bad place.
Oh, we like bad rabbit holes because this is where I think everybody can relate and probably learn from the bad places. So if you're willing, let's
popcorn.
Let's discuss this. Yeah, let's do it.
So, and my friend that kind of showed me the ropes, if you will. He would send me his analyst reports, but most of those stocks were just out of my range. I couldn't buy but a share or two. So anyway, even though people say don't go to the pennies, what did I do? I go to the pennies. I found a site where I could filter and find small stocks, and that's another thing too. When I was doing my research, I wasn't really looking for like services, alert services. I wasn't looking for chat rooms or nothing like that. I knew I just wanted to learn the basics, figure out if
props to you for wanting to learn and not wanting to be a puppet. So, I mean, that's definitely something that some people are like straight up, I want to find hot stock picks. So at least you wanted to learn. So, but now you're in penny land. So proceed onwards, sir.
So what I did was I was thinking, and this was back when, I think Obama was pushing, what was it, cash for clunkers and this and that. And so the economy was we were needing jobs. And I thought green energy, clean energy was going to be it. It's going to save the economy, right? It's going to save
Down the rabbit hole we go.
Jobs, and I'm just going to make all this money buying these solar companies and wind energy companies and this and that. And, that was my thinking anyway. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go for it.
So basically my strategy was, I'm going to buy and hold. And
penny stocks, that is, though.
Exactly. Let me rephrase. I thought I was going to be a clean energy penny stock investor, underlined investor, which if you think you're going to be a penny stock investor, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, replace investor with bag holder, and then that's where it becomes a little bit more accurate. But what I find fascinating is I have no problem. I mean, I don't use fundamental. I don't use macro ideas and then form trade ideas off of those. I mean, I like to use a chart. But there is nothing wrong with taking a macro idea like Obama, cash for clunkers, therefore, I think green energy is going to be, what bails things. I have no problem with that. Some people are very good at developing trade ideas around macro ideas like that. But the problem with, yours and what a lot of people do is, I've developed this big macro thesis, this big idea. So I'm going to put this idea to play in a penny stock. Right there, everything just goes straight down the toilet because, it's a penny stock, and that's just that. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're a billionaire because your penny stock exploded. So you're going to be a penny stock investor. How many of these penny stocks did you quote unquote invest in?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean,
that's not a good sign.
There were several. I mean, they weren't all clean energy related. Kind of once I got into some of the pennies, I saw some other stuff that you know what penny stocks are. They're garbage. They're scams, and that's what they're selling. And so I don't know. I pretty much traded those.
Now I got a question about it. How did you find these clean energy names? Did that lead you to a message board, or were you just Googling stuff and then probably seeing some news outlet about all these crappy names, or what was it?
Yeah, basically I would, like I said, I think it was bar chart I came across, or my friend showed me bar chart, and then that's when I knew. I saw kind of some of all the technical stuff on there, and I knew he was not giving me the full picture. But anyway. I found, sub pennies on there, and I was basically looking for solar companies. And then I would just Google the company names, check out the website, check out, I wasn't privy to the forums just yet. I did run across some research in the companies. That's basically how I came across iHub, and landed there. But long story short, they all pretty much, I might have made money on a couple of them, flipping them when they would run. But for the most part, I was buying, and I wasn't buying big lots at the time. I didn't know what a big lot was, but, I'd buy maybe $300 worth. And then basically I'm holding it. And, most of the time they're pretty much going down. But, next month I'd reload. Give me $300 more. And my buy and hold turned into buy and bleed.
And buy and average down, it sounds like. And averaging down, especially when you're doing it on a penny stock that keeps going in the downwards direction, it's not really going to be good for the long-term health of your portfolio. And we'll just leave it like that. So we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. So you have this pretty nasty experience. What caused the light bulb to kind of go on where you're just like, something's just not right? I mean, I just lost, money. I mean, when was that event? Did something specifically cause it? Or, where was the light bulb moment that came on where not necessarily you figured out all of trading, but you just realized I'm missing a lot more than what I even thought I was missing?
Well, I think that it happened several times. At different degrees.
Okay.
Usually after a big leg down, or maybe at the end of the year, I'm looking at my tax documents, kind of looking at all my trades, and that was usually another time too when it's like, just didn't I'm not making progress, if you will. Now, I did lower my losses the next year. I cut them in half roughly, but I was still down, in red for the second year.
What did you do anything specifically different, or do you recall, like, because that's actually, yeah, you were still red, but at least it wasn't like you were double red, or you got even bigger. At least you cut it in half. Did you change anything around, or?
I think I was kind of more privy to cutting losers, but I'm not good at cutting losers. We'll get back to that, but those were what really hurt me.
So it sounds like you let things bleed still, but not bleed nearly as much, because you had kind of found out how painful it can get. So you're like, you know what? I know how painful it'll get. I'm just going to get out right now. But you were still letting things bleed. Is that maybe like a fair kind of summation there of kind of how that might have happened, where you cut your losses in half?
Yes. A big thing, though, is, I got on a couple pennies. Once I found iHub, I'm like, oh man, here's some stuff, right? And everybody's talking this and talking that, and it's a sliced bread, right? And so I was camped in those forums, just reading posts and just drinking the Kool-Aid up on some of these tickers, the ones I thought would turn around. And long story short, I learned penny stocks the hard way. That is the bottom line.
Meaning, if you hold long term, like, we have nothing against penny stocks if you're going to trade them, but if you go into them with the philosophy, like you said, of being a penny stock investor, and like you said, investor being underlined, you're gonna because the stock could go 1,000% in your favor. But if you're just totally gung ho of an investor, you're not going to sell. You're going to be like, see, I'm a big hot shot. It's going to go another 1,000%. And then all of a sudden it doesn't. And right there, there go your gains, or at least the mass majority of them. So, you learn penny stocks the hard way. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I learned them the hard way too. So it is what it is. So you decided, I'm assuming at some point, I got to get away from penny stocks. So where did you go from that point when you're like, I'm done with penny stocks?
Well, that was the first 2 years. I took 2013 off, basically. I was like, after the first year, I thought, okay, yeah, that was a learning year, right? The second year, I didn't get much better. I wasn't green. So I thought, okay, I'm just not getting it. And the wife messed up and said, hey, at the time I just had like a race bike. And she said, hey, why don't you get a motorcycle we can both ride on? I'm like, are you for real? And she said, yes. So I took some money out of my account to put as a down payment on the bike. And so that 2013 E-Trade didn't see me. I was out on the bike. Now, near the end of that is when you started IC, Inner Circle.
Yep.
And around December, January, I can't remember exactly, but
yeah, that's exactly, okay, that jives perfectly. You're absolutely right.
So I still was in pennies, if you will. But, I did come across, like I said, I wasn't looking for like alerting services, but there was a couple that I had signed up for just to kind of get a feel for what they were doing. I kind of figured they were front loading and it really wasn't a good deal, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel for when they'd send an alert out, go check the ticker out, see what happens, right? So I watched a couple of those guys, but I never really traded off any of their alerts. It was more just to kind of get a feel for them, and a lot of times the volume just wasn't there and I didn't touch them. But I also came across, when I got to iHub, I think I was camped on maybe Seek or EVCA. I can't remember, one of those crappy things. And I think you posted a video chart, and that's basically where I came across you. And then I found something that had your newsletters you were putting out. And so I was subscribed to that. And, I'd get those and I'd try to see what you'd pick down and follow them to try to get some more knowledge and exposure. And then I remember you were going to start a chat room, and, if you sign up now, lifetime membership. I'm like, oh man, that's well worth it, right? Just for the newsletters. And so So after the year coming back, I was in the chat room, and I was still,
Wait. Did you sign up did you get lifetime membership when you signed up?
Yes.
You're one of the original 300?
Yes.
I did not. Chaz,
You didn't even know that.
I know. Why did we not roll out the red carpet for this guy? I thought it was just hooch left over. I thought everybody else was who knows what. Well, wow, I underdressed for this, Chaz. I feel a little naked over here.
Yeah, you did.
We have a freaking celebrity. So, wow. Well, one of the original 300. Awesome. So, anyway, I did not. I don't think you've never even. I don't know. I'm speechless right now.
You may not remember because my original sign-in and my login is still to this day BidLurker.
Oh, BidLurker. Yeah, now that makes. Yeah. So you were pretty big on iHub too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, BidLurker from iHub. Oh, now it makes sense. There you go. You little sneaky guy changing your screen. All right, now the pieces are coming in. Well, hey, I'm talking to BidLurker from. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. So you sign up. You're one of the original 300. You want to follow the newsletters and learn. So where do things go from here? I mean, you're at ground floor.
Yeah, I had some. I would call myself a beginner. Even today, I think I'm barely getting out of the beginner category, or maybe out of amateur category. But, I still really didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. But, Penny, the under $1 room was hot, and, the MJ stocks were still hot. So, I'd make some money, but again, I had losers that I didn't cut, and, they would just eat my account up for the most part. But I learned a lot, but it was new. It changed. I remember you yelled at me one time because it was when it was fresh. I don't think the rules specifically stated this, but maybe they did. But I think I put a breakout alert and put an exclamation point on the end of it.
Ooh, that's no bueno. No bueno. Yeah.
And I didn't know. Sir. You're like, oh, you're pumping. I'm like, what do you mean pumping? I didn't realize the bang was pumping. So I'm like, okay, I understand. And I knew you were trying to keep a tight ship, an efficient room. So I wasn't upset about it. But I'm just like, I think another podcaster, kind of called you out for calling him out or something like that. And I could relate.
Yeah, most of our guests want to generally punch Clay in the face, but yes, we do run a tight-knit ship here. But Clay, Speedster is actually member 139. So I mean, you're in it. This is royalty here. I feel like I should be kissing your feet right now or something. I don't know, because when you signed up, I mean, the site was about as bootleg as it gets. So thank you for that trust and vote of confidence. So sorry to cut you off, Chaz, but yeah, royalty. Now, you had kind of mentioned that those kind of prolonged losers are the ones that were killing your account. What's why was it so hard for you to take a loss? Is this like an ego thing? You just want to be right? Are these names doing you wrong? What's going through your head at this time?
I think I was just full of Kool-Aid. I mean, these were, I was on the Kool-Aid camp. I was believing the pump. And I just thought it would come around. Or, and once I kind of figured out, okay, this is the penny world, I knew hopefully eventually some pump would come into my stock and run it up, and then I could get out. And I won't say that didn't ever happen. It would happen here and there, but I wasn't. Either I wasn't watching the market that day or I just wasn't quick enough, so I never got out. And the next thing I know, it's back down to where I was at and then more red. So
just a vicious little cycle. Because I can relate I understand pennies. So I know that there's pumps that happen in pennies. So now I'm not going to sell because I'm sure right when I sell, then a pump's going to happen and I could have gotten back out. So kind of a two-edged sword there in terms of drinking that Kool-Aid and then understanding pumps happen. But then you fall into the trap of, having to hope for a pump. And, there's definitely never a guarantee that, the stock that you're in is going to get pumped and, maybe get, some movement in the upwards direction. So, yeah, that totally makes sense in terms of kind of that nasty little two-pronged sword that exists, in the market. So things are not going well. You're a part of the inner circle now. When did you finally decide, you know what, I really want to like hit charts hard and I want to, really learn this technical analysis stuff? Was that relatively soon after you joined, or did that still take a little bit?
Well, I think 2014 was the first year I see, and I made some money, but my losers wiped it out. And I think it wasn't until the end of that year, and I got more exposure to different, I'll just call them strategies by different people. I don't know if they weren't really putting out strategies, but they'd put an alert out there and you'd go check out the chart and kind of see what was going on. And so I got a little bit of a feel for maybe strategies, but I think I had really crappy timing because I've never had any giant fool's gold. I've just had bad timing, and it's that's the story of my trading career. I think
It's
that and
disheartening,
trading
isn't it?
on hope.
Because I'm in the same camp as you. I never had any massive fool's gold winners and thought, the Bitcoin thing wasn't by any means life-changing money for me. It was just a raging bull market. But yeah, I never had any fool's gold like that. And I assure you, once you kind of come into it, though, it's much more rewarding. I'm actually kind of happy I didn't get a taste of like a 30 grand winner or something crazy like that, because then I probably would have thought I was a hotshot trader and easily thrown it away. So what's the process now? Where do we go from here?
So into 2014, I finally said, okay, let me see what Clay's talking about. And so I bought RT, Robotic Trading 2.0 was out. So I bought that, went through that, and, I'd had some exposure to some of the technical stuff, but it was really good because Clay's showing you more than just the technical aspects of the indicators or of the MAs or whatever you want to look at, the candles. So it helped me a lot, and it kind of gave me, I didn't have any kind of stop loss strategy at all. I mean, I knew I needed a stop loss, but the very first time I used one, I couldn't remember when I did, but the very first time I used it, I thought I had it way down there because I was going to buy and hold, and it was either AMD or Sprint. And I thought, okay, everybody's using stop loss. They tell me to use stop loss. I'm going to use it. And first time I did, the daggum thing, ran down at the open and boom, right to the penny, got me out, and then took off upwards. So I'm like, well, that sucked. That's what I get for using a stop loss, right? So that was one thing that kind of hindered me and kind of got a bad taste in my mouth. But I did like the robotic trading gave me a lot more information in regards to just beyond learning the indicators themselves. And I really liked learning the psychology of stuff. And that's something that, I'd never got educating myself. Was good psychology around certain things and good strategies.
Yeah, it's the market's like just one massive story. You just got to be able to story of psychology, I should say, and you really do have to be able to interpret it. Now, I kind of want to jump forward here a little bit because you were kind enough to send Ches and I some of your trading results, over the course of time, and yeah, and we won't talk about the first couple of years because as we've discussed, that was kind of you just, it is what it is. You didn't really know what you're doing. So yeah, there was quite a few big, nasty, red bars. So the way it worked on his screenshot was whenever he took a loss, there'd be a big vertical bar in the downwards direction. Any wins would have vertical bars in the upwards direction. And there was quite a few big red vertical bars. And you said something in that email to us that I want to focus on here is, I'll kind of fill in some blanks here. You since invested into Clay Trader University. I know you've been working hard. You've been putting in a lot of time and effort. I mean, you're active in the community. So, you've been working hard. That's really the easiest way to put it. And your profit and losses, what struck me and what you even acknowledged was you're a good trader. I mean, you're a good trader. The past year has been a lot of, vertical bars in the upwards direction. Not any really massive ones, but you've had quite a few of them. And then you've also had a few little small, vertical bars in the downward direction. Again, not a big problem at all. But then you made a note of, and I still struggle once in a while breaking rules. And it's like night and day. And Ches, you can weigh in because I know you saw the images too. It's like, all right, I don't even need to ask what trades he's talking about where he broke rules, because there's still a couple big nasty vertical bars in the downwards direction. So and I appreciated that, because it really shows that all it really takes is a couple, rule breaks, and it can really come up and bite you. So let's kind of talk about your present day trading. I mean, how are things going in the sense of are you getting any better with the losses or with breaking rules, or I mean, are you still struggling with that quite a bit? Because you're putting in the hard work, you have a great understanding of things. There's no question there. It just seems more of a mental issue in terms of, kind of like you need somebody to slap your hands. Don't break the rules. So I mean, how do things stand right now?
Oh, I'm still, I think acknowledging them and sharing them with you guys is and also preparing for this podcast, looking at my old trades, it's kind of got me more back in the disciplined trader state of mind. But a lot of times I dabble back into the undisciplined trader state, and that's what's killing me. I think because I self-educated myself, I didn't have anyone really helping me along to kind of focus me on certain things or guide you or whatever, until I got hooked up with you and CTU, that I just had these old habits of averaging down and just trading on hope. And I gotta say something, because you said what I thought and what I see all the time is bad habits, and I fully realize that the vast majority of people listening are probably going to think, whatever, dude, you're just saying that because you sell a course, you want me to buy your course. And okay, I don't blame you. I get it. But the bad or the sneaky little thing with this whole free education route, and I talked about it in a recent podcast, is there's a whole ton of information out there. I'm never going to deny that. But there's a lot of information, and if you're not getting the full picture, you're going to develop some bad habits, like you just said. And they will come up and they'll nip at your ankles. And even when you're learning properly, like you are right now, they're still always going to be there. And that's why when people say, look, I don't think your courses are for me, I don't know anything. And I tell these people, I'm like, listen, that is the absolute best place to be in. If I can get my hands on you when you have no bad habits, when you haven't done anything, because you're not fuddling around, potentially stumbling upon some of this free education out there that's a total joke. And it's just, I won't even go off on that tangent. I don't want to start yelling tonight. But if you're brand new and don't know anything, trust me, that is the best spot to be in. So whether it's with me or with somebody else that you think you love their content or whatever, that's really the optimum spot to be in, because man, and I, myself included, I still have bad habits that I formed way back when, because, I went down the path too. So it truly is something that unfortunately free education can lead to, because who even know if it's a good education that you're learning. And it's just such a, kind of a whirlwind where bad habits. Just, do you ever find that with terms of, whoops, well, that wasn't good, because it's some sort of bad habit that maybe you learned when you were first getting started?
I mean, that actually applies to just about anything in life when you're trying to learn it. If you're a blank sheet of paper and you actually take the time to learn from, an expert or a professional or somebody who actually has experience doing it, somebody who knows and has, proven done it. Not somebody, don't get me wrong, somebody's done it for 6 months and now they're charging $250 a month for a chat room. It blows my mind though. But yes, just about anything. And even an example for me is, I actually rode motorcycles too. I mean, I still have it. I just don't ride it that often. But, I had a bad habit, pretty much unlearned. I had to unlearn it when I started going to the track where I would be too upright and I wasn't putting my body in the correct position. And that was a bad habit I had to break, because I learned it from somebody who didn't really know what they were doing, somebody who was a new rider as well. So it really does apply in anything in life. If you want to, people are experts and people are professionals and people do things well for a reason. And that's where you want to come there as a completely clean sheet of paper. We have so many people who, when they look up the free education stuff online, the averaging down stuff can drive me up the wall, where they try to argue with me and justify how averaging down works. And they're already, they're not a blank sheet of paper. They already have in their mind something they want to work, and they don't want to listen to me if I tell them, it's a surefire way to kind of blow yourself up. So yeah, sorry, I'm going on the tangent for you. Yeah, it drives me nuts.
No, that was a great point of, bad habits coming back up. So I guess really, props to you, Donald, for realizing, they're just those stupid, bad habits. Because again, going back to that image, I mean, there is consistency, there is wins, it was looking good, and then you can just see, whoop, there's a bad habit, then more good, and then whoops, there's a bad habit. So, is it still kind of rule breaks in regards to not honoring your stop losses, or it is the combination of not honoring stop losses and then averaging down? Or, what seems to be the biggest kind of bad habit that comes up and tries to, nibble at your ankles every now and then?
Not having a stop in.
Oh, not even using a stop at all. Are you, because you're still bitter about that one time you got stopped out by a penny? Is that where that one's maybe coming from?
I'm still I think here's what's got me on most of these big rule breaks is, I'll have some wins. And then, I'm managing the trade, and I don't always just set a stop and walk away. I'm usually, actively.
So you're using the mental stop loss.
Well, at times, I want to get to where, at least since I've acknowledged all my failures recently, the last few trades I've had, I'm like, okay, you got to put in a stop just in case, right? And that's where it's the just in case that I think that's gotten me. Like the biggest loss was on Facebook, and I think it just gapped against me the next morning, and I'm waking up to an $800 loss, and I'm like, oh my God, I hate to sell this, because what if it goes, later in the day, I could get out of it for a $400 loss. Well, that wasn't the case. And so I end up averaging down. And I think it's when those big gaps hit me, or those giant losses just all of a sudden show up before I can get out, or, if I don't have a stop in, it's just so much of a big loss. That's when it's hard for me to cut it, because I want it to come back.
Right.
I'm hoping.
Now, is your situation where you have to do swing trading, or could you do intraday trading if you wanted?
I usually do both. I just a few weeks ago got it back to a cash account, so I was limited on my day trades, and so that would vary my strategy, and that's probably got me in trouble. But well,
it sounds like the big thing here is you're kind of wanting to go big or go home. When you're holding overnight, there's nothing wrong with that, but it seems like the times that gets you, from what you've said, is that when the stop losses. Really, a stop loss is essentially worthless, because if it gaps down below your stop loss, well, then, it is what it is. But that's only going to happen if you're doing swing trade type things. Whereas if you're doing day trading, it sounds like you have a lot more control, and things seem to be better. Is that kind of how it is? Or, are you still struggling even with, day trading and just not putting in stops?
No, I think being limited on day trades definitely has hurt me. And it has forced me to do a swing strategy, which I like swinging and doing day trades, but I think a lot of times I would get hung out to dry. I don't know. I messed up my thought on that one.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud with you. I'm just trying to think, like, to me, it's like, okay, your big losses have come from essentially gapped out, swing trades that have gapped against you. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah.
So, I realize I'm talking, in hindsight and theory. So if you just didn't swing trade, those losses would be gone. And if you just focused on, one strategy, which is day trading, I think maybe if you can hone that down, then, because you have full control when you're day trading. There's not going to be any sort of gap down where your stop loss is rendered useless. So I guess, I'd say look back through your trades, and if it's all, wow, so that big loss was because of a gap down on a swing trade. Oh, yeah, that big loss was because of a gap down on a swing trade.
But my big wins were swing trades. So,
Well, let me ask this. Are you net green or net red right now?
I think this year, if you include the money I pulled out of my account to pay myself and to pay off CTU, I'm green.
Okay, well then you know what, that tells me the RVR, it's worth it then to swing, because you're having some crappy losses, but you're also having some really good gains. So
I want to tie into that as well. Is what what kind of allocation are you doing for like your per trade? Are you putting like 10% on the line each trade? Are you putting 5% on the line each trade? Do you have any idea?
It's a high percentage because I don't have that much cash in my account.
All right, because I don't have the largest account either. But here, the thing that's actually helped me a ton is because I also swing trade options as well. That's where and just like you said, I make the most of my money on big moves in my favor on kind of a larger term time frame, bigger moves, not just kind of intraday stuff. Stuff is too fast for me, and I completely am fine and accept that. But what I've done is I allocate I think just under 10% for each of my trades, and that kind of helped me a ton because I used to put on 25% per trade, and just like you said, when one of those goes wrong, it can kill you. So just racking up gains on somebody got 300%, 400% returns on some of these swing trades. Don't get me wrong, they're not life-changing money, but they're a substantial size based on what my account size is, especially after the wedding. But that's just something to keep in mind because we are at the risk of gaps, and at the same time, if you are green for the year, then obviously what you're doing, the RVR is in your favor.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. He was break even, maybe small loss. So my argument would have been, well, then it seems like those gap downs are hurting you a lot more than the big wins that you're getting. But apparently, that's just kind of with the territory you're going to have some gap downs, but you clearly had, gap ups that help you also. So I kind of refrain. All I would say is now just tell yourself, listen, I'm green when things gap down and then I do stupid stuff. So if things gap down, just imagine how much more green you would be if you would just cut the loser, at that point in time instead of trying to get fancy with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So because that's I'm actually super pumped because I didn't know that you were still green despite those kind of stupid boneheaded moves. But so just imagine if you just cut them right away, you would be that much more green.
That's hindsight 2020.
I realize
right?
easier said than done. I totally realize that it's easier said than done. But I'm just trying to encourage you a little bit that hey, you're definitely on the right path and. Heck, good. You've paid for CTU. You've paid yourself a couple times. So when you're pulling money out of your account to spend it, on whether you're paying back for education or you're just spending on yourself, that's a good sign. So you're definitely on the right pathway. And looking at to give a little context to listeners, we're doing this in evening time. And we have a live webinar for Clay Trader University that starts in 11 minutes. So we got to start to wrap this up. So we're going to start to do exactly that. It sounds like you're in a good place. We'll definitely have to have you back. I know you're a little hesitant because you're like, well, I'm not quite where I want to be. But I'd kind of argue you're doing fantastic. I mean, you're green on the year. You've paid for Clay Trader University. You've pulled money out for other things. And that's with doing some stupid stuff. So I'd say you're doing pretty well if you're doing some stupid things, yet you're still green like you are. So, well done to you. Now, Ches, actually, it's your time machine, so I'll let you ask this question.
Well, obviously you've been around for a little bit, and I'm sure there's at least one piece of advice you'd like to give yourself back when you first started trading. So if I was to lend you my time machine, which I will since you've been such a loyal community member here, what piece of advice would you go and give yourself back when you started?
Well, I don't know if I'd listen to myself. But if I could, I would go back and tell myself, basically, get with Clay and get involved with him sooner, much sooner than I did. I mean, I got involved with him early, but I was like so against spending any money.
There's get involved, and then there's like, all right, let's get super serious and let's put the rubber to the road. You'll appreciate that little slang, pun intended. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wish I'd have gotten the CTU sooner. I know it wasn't available when I first started, but it's, after taking it this year, going through it all, and I've never felt as confident about my trading. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, there's green at the end of the tunnel, and you're already seeing it, so well done there. Well, now we're moving into some fun questions here. What is your favorite star constellation? No, I'm kidding. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Is this where I give you a quote, or I just tell you my movie?
You can tell me a movie, and I may try to quote it. We'll see if we'll see what kind of mood I'm in here.
Okay. I know you love Dumb and Dumber. I do too. But I'm not going to pick that one. But that's a great movie. but I kind of go back to something very similar. But I think it was the original Dumb and Dumber, maybe. But anyway, Steve Martin in The Jerk.
I've not seen that, but I have.
Oh my God!
So as a Dumb and Dumber fan, I do highly respect your opinion. So you given I like Dumb and Dumber style comedy, The Jerk, you think I'd get a kick out of that one then?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, granted, it came out in '79.
Comedy is comedy. I don't care. It can be black and white. The Three Stooges still crack me up. I don't know what that says about me, but I don't care. Funny is funny. What about food? What do you like to eat?
My default answer is probably going to be prime rib or a nice steak, T-bone ribeye, baked potato. But being in Nashville, I also have to say my other favorite is hot chicken.
I'm gonna get some of that when we come down for the next community meetup. But now,
sure.
What are you're gonna have to tell us some good places we can go. What are 3 words you think should be associated with successful trading?
Okay, I'm using one of these as a one word, I guess, but I'm gonna say clay trader university student. Is what?
Boom!
That's a first.
Wow! And you're not getting paid, right? Like I did not know that was coming, and you're receiving no compensation. Let's just get that fully. Is that true?
Correct. No compensation.
There we go. So your mind shares are in the mail, by the way. So don't worry about it. They'll be there soon. So in all, this. The way you talk, you know what? I'm kind of a little irritated at you. First, you're a bid lurker, and I didn't even know you're a bid lurker. Then to come and find out, you talk about yourself like you're like the worst trader ever. And then we find out you're green. You've paid for Clay Trader University. You pulled out more money to pay. I mean, what the heck, man? So you got to, I guess you're an engineer, so you're probably critical by default. But still, I mean, you're on the right path, man. So I'm glad to hear you're feeling confident. So just, keep up what you've been doing. You've been doing a good job. And thank you for hanging out with us. Are you going to be on the webinar here in a few minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. So that's what I mean by working hard. So you get to hear, isn't that nice? You get to hear my voice for another hour. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. So, but in all seriousness, thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to thank you and Ches and Nate and everyone in the community, just because, it's a great place, and it's really helped me once I kind of embraced it more and finally decided to cough up the money for CTU. There's just so much content beyond the courses. It's just unbelievable, and that's helped me tremendously just as much as the courses. So I want to thank you guys.
Well, you are welcome, but also community is only as good as the bricks that all build that foundation, and you are definitely a valuable brick in that house. So thank you very much to you. Now, for our listeners, if you are listening on the website, click that share button, leave us a comment below. We do read those. We'll respond. And we love to hear from people that are listening. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, hit that subscribe button. If you leave us a rating, those are always definitely appreciated, especially on iTunes. And then finally, if you're listening on YouTube, definitely check out the channel as a whole. A lot of other videos besides just these podcasts, live trade videos, chart analysis videos, quick tip videos, all sorts of things. So check out the channel, and then hopefully you do decide to subscribe. So thank you again to Donald Speedster 47. Thank you again to all of you listeners. And until next time, get out there and trade without what, Ches?
Emotion.
There we go. See you guys later.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.